Hi, I'm Witch Mike and welcome to the show. And this video will be about which is better. And this will be the first video game topic. So a very popular game came out last year and it has a lot of talk. And that game is Last of Us. So which is better? Last of Us 1 or Last of Us 2? We would talk every topic of the games. So the first will be about the story. In Last of Us, you play as Joel. As Joel, as you play his daughter at first as Sarah, and she experienced the first day of outbreak. But later on, you play as Joel as he's trying to save his daughter from the infected and the chaos. But then later on, Sarah been shot. And years later, as you play Joel in the quarantine zone, as Joel meet up with Tess, as they're a smuggler partners, as they try to get their weapons back, but then taken by Marlene, who is the leader of the Fireflies. As Marlene made a deal with them that she would give them the weapons if they escort Ellie to the Fireflies HQ. But later on, as you find out that Ellie has been bitten, but she is immune. As they find out that the Fireflies are trying to make a cure of the spores. But then Tess been bitten, and then Joel and Ellie had to leave her behind as she sacrificed herself to give them time to escape. And that's where the story for Joel and Ellie began. As later on, as Joel and Ellie meet with Bill, who's this only survivor in the small town, as he's paranoid, as he doesn't trust anyone, as Joel needs a car from Bill. But as Joel gets a working car, as Joel and Ellie make their way to Pittsburgh. As they travel all the way to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is run by the Hunters. And then you trap in the city as they meet up with Henry and Sam as the two only survivors as they try to go through the city, but they manage to escape. And then the Hunters track them down, and then they had to deal with the Hunters and the affected. But later on, that Sam sadly been bitten, and then Henry has to force to kill him, as Henry has no choice to end his life. Later on, Joel and Ellie end up at Jackson, where Tommy lives. But after you visit Tommy, Tommy tells you that the Firefly last location that it is at University of Colorado. As they go through the winter, as they end up dealing with another group, but then Joel has a serious injury as Ellie had to heal him over time. As you see Ellie manage to escape from the cannibals, but then you see her dealing with David. But as Joel managed to wake up and managed to get back on his feet, trying to find Ellie, but then Ellie been chased by David, who's trying to kill her. As they fight at a restaurant, Ellie managed to beat him. As Joel finally catch up with Ellie, both managed to escape. As they managed to survive through the winter, as they managed to get to Salt Lake City, as they managed to catch up with the Fireflies, as Marlene somehow managed to get there, as Marlene told Joel, as they had to kill Ellie to make the vaccine. As Joel can't go through with it, and also killing Marlene and tell Ellie a lie in order to prevent her to go back and to keep them safe. In Last of Us 2, you play as Ellie and Abby. But first, you play as Joel for the opening, as Joel tells Tommy the truth what happened at the Fireflies. As later on, as Ellie go through their checkpoints on their patrol with Dana, as you play as Abby as they trying to get to Jackson, as you discover that their mission is to find Joel and kill him. But as later on, Abby managed to come cross paths with Joel as she'd been overrun by infected. But then Joel saved her life, and she take Joel and Tommy back to the safe house. But later on, she tortured Joel as for the death of her father. As Ellie finds out that Joel and Tommy are missing, she go out by herself to save Joel. As Joel been killed by Abby in front of Ellie, as Ellie trauma begins, as she cannot move forward, as Ellie has to find Abby for justice for Joel. Ellie and Deanna go to Seattle as Tommy already left to kill Abby, as they also try to get Tommy back and kill Abby also. As you go throughout Seattle, as later on that Dana found out that Ellie is immune, as also Dana is pregnant. As Ellie goes solo, as she had to deal with the wolves and the scars by herself. But later on, Ellie mate with Jesse. Somehow he managed to catch up with them also. As Jesse and Ellie go back, Ellie managed to get to the hospital and torture one of Abby's friends to get information. But then once she got information, she know where Owens lives, as Ellie and Jesse has to go separate ways as Tommy is in trouble and Jesse wants to help him. Ellie's too obsessed to find Abby. So later on, you go separate ways. Ellie managed to get to Owen's place and managed to kill Mel and Owen. But then Ellie found out that Mel is pregnant as her trauma's gotten worse. As Abby managed to find them and Abby killed Jesse, that's where you start to begin Abby's story. As you see her as a kid, get to know Abby's father is the doctor who's performing an operation on Ellie to get the vaccine. But then Joel killed her father in order to save Ellie's life. But then Abby went off to find Owen, as Owen's in trouble with Isaac, the leader of the wolf. It's seen as Owen went AWOL, and Abby wants to know the truth, what happened. But later on, she been captured by the Scars, but then been saved by Yara and Lev, who also part of the Scars, but been chased by their own group. Abby saved their lives, but then Abby went back as she felt guilty for leaving them behind. But then also saved Yara's life as her arm has been crippled, but she needed medical attention immediately. And Abby and Lev went to the hospital to get the medical supplies. But later on, Abby's in trouble with the wolf, as she's been known for going AWOL, but then ended up in the basement as trying to get the medical supplies she need. She got the medical supplies and went off back to Owen's place. After saving Yara's life, some reason Lev decided to go back home and to go back to his mother, even knowing that his mother might kill him. But they need a boat to get to the island. As Abby meet with Manny again, as they've been under attack by Tommy. But then Manny dies and end up with Tommy versus Abby. But Yara saved her life. As they went off to the island, as to find Lev before the Scars do. But as the island been under attack by Isaac, sent a army of wolf to kill all the Scars on the island. But then Lev accidentally killed his mother. But then they need to get off the island, as they had to go through a war zone. But then Jarl got killed by one of the wolf soldiers. But then later on, Jarl managed to kill Isaac, who was about to kill Abby. But after they managed to escape the island, they found Owen and Mel. As they found the map back to Ellie's safe house, they managed to kill Jesse, almost somehow didn't kill Tommy. But then you end up another boss battle between Abby versus Ellie. As Abby tried to kill Ellie, but then Dana saved her life, but then also Lev saved Ellie and Dana's life as she convinced Abby to spare their lives. And she did. And after that, Ellie and Dana live together as they have a baby, as Ellie seemed to put her past behind and move on with her life. Then sadly, Ellie has trauma. As also Tommy returned back, and Tommy convinced Ellie to go finish what they started, and it makes no sense as they almost died. As some reason Tommy can't put this behind them. As we see Abby and Lev as they travel through California as they try to find out where the fireflies are, or there are any fireflies left. But then they managed to contact with the fireflies, but been captured by the Rattles as a new group. Later, Ellie is not far behind. As she meets with the Rattlers, as she managed to get to their home base and free the prisoners, and found Abby at the beach, as she could easily kill her, but did not, as she's won a one-on-one fight. But then Ellie won the fight, but decided not to kill them. As she let them go, this is probably the last time we see Abby and Lev. As Ellie went back home, as she found Dana and the baby are gone, took everything. As Ellie is left alone. So which is better in the story? Well, obvious the first game is great, as you know, Joel lost his daughter Sarah in the beginning, and then he kind of adopted a new daughter, you know, Ellie, who both bond together over time. As Joel, he doesn't want to have a relationship with some people, as he just he did for Tess, who they were Marlene, who all the weapons they lost in the beginning of the story. But as Joel finally got Ellie to the hospital, to the Firefly HQ, and finds out that to perform the surgery they had to kill Ellie because there's a fungus in her head. But it's great how Joel doesn't go with it. He doesn't, he doesn't want to lose another daughter, in a way. So as Joe had to live with what he did, the decision he made, and the lie to Ellie, it's great. It's just like you don't know how you expect it to end. For the second game, like I said, it's all about revenge. It's like even some people know about Ellie. She's immune. You know how important she is, but no, the whole story is about revenge. That's this both sides. This, they want to kill each other. That's the whole point of the game. But it's just so bad how how Joel died just right off the bat, as they kind of just build up to that point to the game. But no, he just died real fast. So, but you do see Joe in flashbacks, and it's just bad. It did it bad compared to the first one. To me, the first game story is the best. It's way better than the second. It's so written well. How like I said, the whole bond together is great. So for the story, I'm going with the first game. For the characters, as you play Joel Miller, a father who lost his daughter, and then later on you play as Ellie, a, perhaps the only person who is immune to the spores, who can probably save humanity. The game had great side characters as Tommy, as you meet him in the beginning of the story, as a brother of Joel, and Marlene, who is a leader of Fireflies, that she believes she can save humanity, as she believes she can restore civilization, and Tess, as she is a smuggler and a friend with Joel, and Bill, who is this, as I say, a guy who is paranoid with people, as he only lived in the town by himself, and who set traps in order to keep himself safe. You also meet up with Henry and Sam, two brothers who were in a small group that went into Pittsburgh to look for supplies, and probably the whole group is dead, and Henry and Sam are the only survivors, as they made a pact together with Joel as to working together to get out of the city. In Last of Us 2, you play as Ellie and also Abby. As playing Ellie, as she lost Joel, as Joel has been murdered by Abby, as Ellie wants revenge on Joel's death. Ellie was willing to go through anything to get to Abby, and later as Abby had her revenge for the death of her father, and as she found out that something happened to Owen, as she went to see him, and then Abby came across Yar and Lev, as she'd been saved by them, but they're in trouble as Yar's arm has been damaged. For the side characters, there's Dana, who is a love interest to Ellie, and there's Jesse, who is a friend with Ellie and Dana, and there's Tommy, who was at the death of Joel's, as he had the same goal as Ellie, to plot revenge. On Abby's side, there's Manny, who is a good friend with Abby, and there's Owen, that not really clear of they had a romantic past, and there's Mel, who is pregnant and also a friend with Abby, and there's Yar and Lev as they outcast from the Scars, as they running for their lives, and there's Isaac, the leader of the Wolf, as his whole goal is to protect his people at any cost. So, for the best characters, obvious, Last of Us 1. And why? Because like I said, the bond of Ellie and Joel is great, you know. And all the other character Tess, I really like Tess, and like and Joel and Ellie together, they're like a family together in a way. But Tess, I wish we could get to know more of Tess, you know. Like I want to know more history with Joel. The bond, the chemistry that these two have, it is great. It's this, you know, Joel, he's so strict with everything as he's trying to survive, and you know, Ellie, she tried to be useful to him, but you know, Joel doesn't want her help, you know, put in risk way, you know. But like I said, you know how Ellie, like she's so open up to him. She, you know, has her joke book.
Okay, we need to lighten the mood. Ready? It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
What is that?
It's a joke book.
Let's keep going.
What did the Confederate soldiers use to eat off of? Civilware.
Uh-huh.
What did they use to drink with? Cups. Dixie cups. I walked into my sister's room and tripped on a bra. It was a booby trap. What is the leading cause of divorce in long-term marriages? A stalemate.
That's awful.
You're awful.
Do you even understand what that means?
Nope. Doesn't matter.
And I love it how they meet up with Bill. Bill, who is a guy who lives in a small town, I believe, by himself, and he's so paranoid. As you know, for good reason. During the apocalypse time, it's like, you know, you can't trust people. You can't trust anybody. You know, you have to look out for yourself. But it's great how Ellie and Bill always find each other. It's great.
You guys would give me a gun, I can help you kill some of these fuckers.
Shut up. Shut up.
I love the, you know, they always argue with every little thing, and Ellie just, like, doesn't care what Bill thinks. So it's great.
Bullshit. It is just like that. Hey! What'd I say to you when we walked down the steps? What'd I say?
I'm just fixing your stupid pile.
Don't touch. God damn it.
You know, and then and Henry and Sam, it's just so sad. You know, it's really heartbreaking. You know, for the best characters is Last of Us 1. In The Last of Us 1, they are the affected, and there are 3 types, as there are the runners, clickers, and the blower. For the runners, they work in big groups, and they only attack you by melee. And for the clickers, are the worst, as they are blind, but they can hear you, so you have to use stealth. But if the clickers find you, if they manage to grab you, it is a one-hit kill. And for the blowers, they are somewhat a boss battle, as the blowers, as same as clickers, if they grab you, is game over. And the blowers use throwing like a spore bomb to push your health and make you slower. And as the human side, there are 4 types of faction. There is a militia from the quarantine zone, and there's the hunters from Pittsburgh. There's David Group, and the Fireflies. For the quarantine militia, they are well equipped with body armor and guns. And for the hunters, they are somewhat mostly have melee weapons, but also carry guns as well. And for David Group are the same. And for the Fireflies, they are also the same as the militia group, as they are well equipped with armor and guns. In Last of Us 2, there is the same affected but two new types. There are the Stalkers and the Shamblers. In the Stalkers, they hide and they prevent you to find them as they sneak around the corner or behind walls. And for the Shamblers, they are like the blowers but shoot acid spores, as you have to keep your distance from them. And for the human faction, there's only 3 types. There's the Wolf, the Scars, and the Rattlers. For the Wolf, they're kind of the same like the militia, as they're well equipped with guns, and they also do melee attack. But the Scars are a completely different type, as they work as a group, as they find ways to flank you, even hunting you down. As the Rattlers, they are the same as the Wolf, as they are well equipped and they have body armor and also headgear. And for the enemies, well, this is a tough one, because obvious in the affected, in the first game you have 3 types. You have the runners, the clickers, and the blowers. In the second game is the same, except you have 2 types. You have the Shamblers and the Stalkers. So you have 5 type affected. So, and in the first game you have the Hunters are from, I believe from Pittsburgh. But then you had the military from the quarantine zone, and then you had the Fireflies, and then you got the Cannibals. So you have 4 type of groups, and they're pretty much the same. They're not like a big deal. So in the second game, you have the Wolves. They're like the militia. They kind of work the same way. And then the Scars. They're like I really like just dealing with Scars. The Scars are, to me, the toughest. They really work in groups, as like if they find you, they will flank you. You know, that's the hardest part in the game. And especially some places there's not really much cover in the game. Not really like, and especially the Scars, they communicate by whistling. And they also a boss battle too, because in the first one, you know what? They're in the first game. You deal with David as you play Ellie, as you can't go against for yourself against David, because if you deal with David, will kill you right away, because he will overpower her right away. So you had to sneak up on David like a bunch of times, and there's like plates on the floor at the restaurant, and everything's on fire, and you had to be very sneaky with him. So man, the boss battle is really tough, because the Rat King, it's pretty good, but then there's Ellie and Abby fight at first. There's no reason for that fight in the first place. Like the last fight between them, that makes sense, but that fight is so completely out of place. And then there's Abby against that Scar guy. She make a huge scar on him, on his outside his face. For me, man, this is really tough. Like, this is a really undecisive, because I really enjoy fighting against the Scars. But the best, I would say the best boss battle is the first game. You know, Ellie versus David. That to me, that was a fun one. You know, it's really challenging too. But the best enemies, you know, it's had to be, for me, is the second one, as you fight different type affected, and then finding, like I said, dealing with the Scars. To me, I always enjoy dealing with the Scars. The Scars are really challenging. So, boss battle, first game. Enemies, second game. So. for the video game contact. In the first and second game, the crafting is the same. But as the first game, as Joel used smoke bombs, nail bomb, as you can use a grenade or a mine. And for the second game, as Ellie can use Molotov, a landmine, as Abby can use pipe bombs. And also for the weapons, that in the first game, Joel has plenty of good weapons. But in the second game, as you play two characters, you have more weapons. But the one thing I really enjoy is a weapon upgrade for the second game. As the first game is the same, but in the second game, as you see the character modify their weapon. As both games also have abilities, but in the second game, you can get new skills if you find a training manual in the game. And for the music, in both games are great, as they have a country music and also pretty good in parts of the game. And for the bonus contact, as the first and second game, as the first, as you can change your characters' outfits for Joel and Ellie, and also change their backpacks. As in the second game, that you can see character models. Change game render. And also unlock cheats. For me, I would personally go with this first game because I really enjoy the bonus contact for Ellie, as you can change her outfit and have a Jake and Daxter clothing, and also give her goggles, as I'm a big fan of Jake and Daxter games. And also the first game has multiplayer, unfortunately the second game doesn't. So I'm going with the first game. So, which is better? Last of Us 1 or 2? You want to know my opinion? Well, as I said, Last of Us 1 is the best. Because, well, the story's great, characters are great, how you see day one how the outbreak started, and then, the tough decision Joe made, and all the other characters you meet up, and especially the first game, you explore more of throughout the US, that's great, and then the second game, you kind of explore mostly in Seattle, Washington, the city. That's fine, but I really wanted that, exploration throughout the other city and what happened over time. There's different cities went for quarantine zone and been taken over by the civilians. And as the first game, as you see how Pittsburgh went through, and also Seattle, as the civilians took over by the wolves. And my favorite part in Last of Us 2 is the part as the Joel and Ellie's flashback is at
Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur! Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Oh my fucking god, fucking dinosaur! dinosaurs, holy shit, what the fuck?
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, wasn't it awesome?
It's awesome that you didn't break anything.
That was awesome.
So for Last of Us 1, mostly I pick it because the story and the characters and everything else. And for Last of Us 3, if there is, I hope it's good. I hope it's better than 1 and 2, especially over 2. Especially what will happen to Ellie and Abby. Will we see her later? Maybe, as she's back with the Fireflies. So, Last of Us 1 is the best for me. So, what is best for you? Last of Us 1 or 2? So, which is better? Last of Us 1 or 2? Let me know. Let me see in the comments. And I hope you like this video. Hit that like button. And you want to see more of my videos? Hit the subscribe also. Thanks for watching. I hope you see you again till the next video. So thanks for watching. Adios.